they wanted us to know, and they went out of their way. And our family's like, I think one of our love languages as a family is gifts. Like we like to give gifts to each other. So like my dad would do that. Okay, let's take you out and, buy something or whatever. And not that that's like buying someone's love or whatever, but anyway, he just wanted us to know that, okay, yeah, you're in trouble and you disappointed me, but I love you. And it doesn't change, how much I love you. And my dad even told me, he was like, what, I love you and I'm going to try to trust you the same, but you're the one who's going to make the decision from this point forward if you're going to do right and if you're going to obey me. But anyway, just even when we were getting in trouble, and sometimes our parents had to come down harder on us than other times, but we always knew, even in the discipline, that they loved us. And there was just no question in our minds that they loved us. That we didn't think that they didn't love us, or that, we were neglected, or that my dad was just, so busy with the ministry. And like my dad was a super hard worker. I don't know. He probably worked like 60 hours a week, and he was always, coming up with some new project he was going to do at church, or some new ministry, or some new missions team on the other side of the world. But he was like one of the busiest people I've ever met, but he just made time. Like he was intentional in making time for us and for just letting us know that he loved us. And ultimately, and he would preach about it too. He preached a lot about the family, just letting us, just winning our hearts as his children. And I'd say like parents can, I guess, get away with a lot if, if you have your children's heart. And another, I guess, illustration is, so my husband and I, we had, I guess, a unique dating situation. For my husband, from the time like he asked my dad if he could date me to when we got married, it was 7 years. But I didn't find out that he was interested in me until a couple of years later, because my dad scrutinized him, and background checks and drug tests and STD tests and anything you could imagine. And I'm not exaggerating at all. But anyway, so we called it courtship, but it was really long. And when I first talked to my dad, it's like, yeah, Bruce is interested in you. And, if all goes well, at the time my husband was helping assistant pastor at a church, if everything goes well, maybe you'll date for like 6 months, and then you'll get engaged, and then, maybe he'll take over the church. And, we thought, oh, maybe it would be a year. And then anyway, it ended up being like another 4 years. And then my dad also got sick at the end, so it made it longer. But it was really hard. Like if you can imagine, you really love someone. And I always admired my husband, even before like I was ever interested in him. I always admired his godliness. And even before, like when I was younger, because he's 5 years older than me, so I was in high school when he came. So I just thought he was like a godly older guy or whatever. So anyway, but so, you really love someone, and then you just like, you think you're going to get engaged. And then my dad's like, no, because he's really strict. No, you got to work on this. You got to take care of this or whatever. So like, if you could imagine, like there could be a lot of temptations to want to disobey, or to want to rebel, or just be like, oh my goodness, like again, or like, another 6 months. And then it gets really hard when you love someone, and like, that's the person you want to marry, and it's like a year passes and another year passes or whatever. But, I would say that obviously we made a decision that we were going to do right no matter what. But also, I trusted my dad, and I didn't completely understand. And I know like he was protecting me, and he wanted to make sure that we were ready for marriage. And, but I would say like a big part of that is that I trusted my dad, because I knew he loved me. I knew he wasn't doing this to hurt me. I knew he wasn't, it was because he loved me. And even though I didn't understand, and, towards the end, he told me, like, I told him, like, I don't understand it's taking so long. I just want to know what's going on or whatever. And he told me, this is the first time I've ever done it. You're my first daughter who ever dated. And I'm sorry, I wouldn't do it the same way again, but it's because I love you, but I believe that. And so I wasn't just like, I can't believe it, forget it, I'm not going to listen or whatever, because he had my heart. I knew he loved me. So as much as it hurt, and we went through, like, we would say like our dating time was one of the hardest times in our life.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
But,
and it was only 6 months for me. So, okay, tell me this. So how old were you when he first expressed interest? And how old were you when you finally got married?
So let me see. I was 25 when we got married, and I think I was 20 when I found out that he was interested in me. I think that's what it was.
Okay. Wow.
I was
That's
20
a
or
long
21.
time.
Yeah, so like for the first year, we only emailed each other. We weren't allowed to talk at church or anything.
Wow.
We only emailed each other, and the emails went through my dad. So if he didn't like what we said, he would like tell us, no, you need to change this or whatever. So he was really strict, and he was just trying to protect us the best way he could. And he was a pastor, of course. So he heard all the horror stories of his pastor friends whose daughter might have met the wrong one at Bible college or whatever. So he was just doing his best to protect me. So I know it was because he loved me, but it was hard.
Yeah, that's really hard. That's really, really hard.
But I knew he loved me. So we dealt with it.
And he got you eventually. So
yes. That's all that matters.
So what does he think about, what does he think about now with your husband having different views on some of the things in the Bible than he does?
Say it again.
Does he still remember a lot of doctrine? How does your dad feel now with your husband holding some different Bible views or, doctrinal things than your dad does? Can you hear me?
Sorry.
Nope.
I'm getting
okay. Yeah, you're
call.
cutting out.
I was getting it's my husband's iPad, but his phone calls come in through his computer. Everything's connected, but he's out.
Oh, I see.
I don't think my dad, you can talk to him, but you don't hold like a full on conversation with him. But
right.
My husband had talked to him about like some of his different views. And I think like my dad has sent out like
another phone call
sorry.
coming through. It like mutes your microphone when it comes through. It mutes your microphone. That's what's going on.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. I just can't see you.
Okay, I don't know what happened.
I can see a Bible.
I know, my husband's hands. I don't even know how to change that. Maybe if I reconnect, I don't know. It's okay. You don't have to see me.
You might have turned off your camera. There's like
let me see.
A bunch of settings up on top. There's like a bar on top. Nope, I just saw you. Yep, now you're back on. Yep, you turned your camera off somehow.
Yeah. So my dad.
So you were saying
he did send out someone else from our church who had like the same views on end times. I don't think things would have turned out the way that they did as far as us having to leave the church if my dad was still there, though he doesn't hold the same views. But when we see my dad, like we don't have those conversations. And again, like he talks, but it's not like we have these really long, like deep conversations or anything like that. Yeah. But anyway, I don't think that my dad would have dealt with things the same way. And I don't think that he would have not let my husband pastor or whatever. Like, I don't think that even though he doesn't, agree, I don't think that would have been like a huge deal or huge issue. If that answers your question. We don't like talk about it a bunch now. I mean, my husband always, I think the most important thing, I know the most important thing is like that souls are being saved and that, there's difference being made in people's lives. So when we do go talk to him, we talk to him about the souls that are saved, and like he gets super excited. Like even if he doesn't talk, because sometimes he's more talkative than others, he's just always like he has got his fist there, like yes, like he's really happy about the souls that are being saved, and we always give him updates on the church and things like that.
So I wanted to kind of touch on this. This is not in the notes, so I'm kind of putting you on the spot. But the title is The Benefits of Being Raised in a Christian Home. And I wanted to touch a little bit on, for me, let me give you an example. For me, one of the biggest benefits of being raised in a Christian home was that it protected me from a lot of the baggage that you can bring into a marriage. And, the biggest thing is I made it to the marriage altar pure. Me and my husband have only been with each other. It kept our minds innocent. Our parents really strove to keep us innocent. So he or I have never been into anything, worldly as far as it comes to that. Even with him being raised in a Christian home. Of course, this was before the big internet craze, but he is one of the men that, you know, is not addicted to a lot of the stuff on the internet, like the pornography and things, because I believe now, I think it's 3 out of 5 men look at that junk, if that's right. And him being raised the way he was, it really instilled a fear of that type of thing in him. So I'm one of the lucky ones that's married to someone who's not into all that. But what for you, you know, for me, one of the biggest benefits was just the innocence that it brought and not being subjected to a lot of stuff. What was one of the biggest benefits in your mind of being raised in a Christian home, the way you were raised?
The biggest benefit.
Yep.
I mean, I would definitely second what you said. Just the protection from the world. Our parents were really protective of us, even
Yeah.
within the church. Like
Yeah.
they were careful about the friends that we had, and we can just go over to someone's house just because they were a part of the church or whatever. I would say you do just have like kind of like a head start on life, I feel like. Just growing up in a Christian home, you learn so much, especially if you're, you know, you have godly parents. You learn so much about just marriage, and just you have that example of like a life and just how to live life. Like even if it's day-to-day life, obviously the examples of like how a wife should act towards her husband, how a husband should act towards his wife. You just see the work ethics that that my dad had. There's so many things that like I think, and I'm not saying like there are homes that just have character, but a lot of homes in the world, they just don't have. I mean, obviously God's word gives us the principles, just principles for life. And I feel like if you grow up in a Christian home, you have a head start on life. And just, I mean, just like you said, going into marriage and knowing, you know, I get to hear a lot of stories like my parents, or you hear different stories from different preachers over. They talk about when I got married, it was just like a disaster. The first couple months were horrible or whatever. But I know there's adjustment when you first get married. But I feel like when you do grow up in a Christian home, and there's a lot of things that you learn to say, not to say, or whatever. I don't know. Just like living, just daily living and wisdom for life you get from God's word and from watching a life. And I think that's what, like, Jesus' disciples, they watched him every single day and watched him, and they were, watched him as an example. We grew up in Christian homes, and so we watched the example. It wasn't just someone telling us this is what you're supposed to do, but we watched it. So it almost becomes second nature to you. And obviously we have to make a decision to do right, whether it's in our marriage or with our children, or, doing right and all that. But just living a godly life and having, I guess, Christian principles in your life, it almost comes as second nature. And again, I don't want to say, like, my dad used to say, it doesn't happen by osmosis and it doesn't happen on accident.
Right.
But I feel like you just have a head start on just life. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it definitely makes sense. And I feel like there's a lot, like I said, a lot of young people my age bemoaning the fact that they were raised in a Christian home. But I really wanted this show to be, I wanted you to see how Sarah's parents were. And, I had good godly parents growing up as well. And I wanted you to see the benefits of it. And you hear so much about how, IFB is a cult, and they, all the girls have to dress a certain way, and, blah, blah, blah. And, you might have that thought, like, go through your head, like, is it worth it? Is it worth it trying to raise my kids like this? But I 100% love the way that I loved being raised in a Christian home. And I love raising my own children in a Christian home. And it's not something that I bemoan or think I missed out on anything. Mm-hmm. I feel like my life is a dream. I'm living my dream. Do you feel that way?